Man, what a game. What can you say? This is a hot take. Straight after the DHL Stormers lost by 1 point to the Vodacom Bulls, the Bulls have broken their Cape Town duck for the first time in the URC, their first win in Cape Town. But man, what a game. Jeez, the drama, the drama. That's why I love this game. Nothing comes close to Derby, North-South Derby. Both sides. Won it, lost it, won it, lost it, missed kicks, scored tries. Jeez, there was drama everywhere. And just gonna thought I'd give a quick hot take on the game itself. Well done, Bulls, for breaking their duck. I think there'll be relief more than celebrations, although there probably will be a lot of celebrations, and the Stormers should really feel good because, yeah, I think coming into the game, a lot of people didn't give them a chance. I didn't think it was that bad. I think the Bulls had missed a lot, by not having guys like Elrich Lowe and Ron Nokia. But they started off well. It was an exceptional game. There was a lot of mistakes. There was a lot of handling errors. Both sides fluffed chances. Both sides missed kicks. And I suppose depending on which side of the scoreline you sit on, you say either they lost the game or they were lucky to win the game. But it was an exceptional game of rugby to me, just in terms of the drama. Now, it wasn't a classic game in terms of the quality of the rugby, but I think it was a high pressure game. It was very much like a test match for me. There's times the emotions and the roller coaster, and you see both sides, and not one side got ahead. I mean, the Bulls literally should have taken the lead and probably taken the game away from them when David Creel missed the conversion of Ruan for Mark's try. But yeah, it was an amazing game, and I think at the end of the day, probably a great game. I know if you're sitting on the wrong side of the result, you're probably going to say it isn't. But I think everybody there got their entertainment's value. It's a wonderful game, and of course now this means the Stormers have got a very, very hard road to get to the top 8. Now they've literally got to win almost every single game now left in the URC to make the top 8. They've got a really tough road. They've got some good runs, but they've got some tough games coming up as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do in that time. Yeah, so it's going to be a really long, tough road for the Stormers. They had their injuries, they've had their problems, and certainly it hasn't been a season of luck for them as well, so you got to feel for them as well. But they certainly contributed to this game, and this was a stunning game in terms of drama and I don't know, I'm trying to think of the right words for it, but it wasn't a classic. As I say, it wasn't a aesthetically perfect game. There was so many mistakes, but man, what a game in terms of drama and emotion. And it really, I think everybody was on the edge of their seats right till the end. Sport can be cruel. Clayton Blommick is missing the kick at the end there. Yuri Matia also missing kicks as well during the game. David Creel missing kicks. All of them on other days would have probably got it as well. Was Vinny LaRue a success at 10 for the Bulls? I think the jury's still out on that. There were times when he looked really good and he moved the Bulls around very well. But there's one point there where Emrose Papier looked at him and Walker Lowe almost got in between them, and then Vinny just moved away and Emrose passed to where he was and the ball just bounced. So that's also not one of the best things out there. Sorry, just got a call there. So I mean, I think Vinny hasn't played 10 for a long time, so I think you can probably excuse him that. There was a couple of times where I thought Harold Forster, also the grubber kicks that didn't work. Warwick Galant did the same for the Stormers. There's a lot of mistakes, and I think if you look at it, I think the big draw card for this game was probably going to be the clash between Evan Roos and Cameron Honeycomb. Now, Cameron Honeycomb had a great start to the game where he twisted out from the kickoff and made a good run, and that led to the Bulls' try in the first minute. He also had some great runs and did some good things and had one very good turnover as well. But then he also made a couple of mistakes, knock-ons from kickoffs, dropping the ball where he took his eye off the ball from passes where Marcel Coetzee put him through. I'm thinking of a couple. So he had a couple of mistakes. Evan Roos started slowly, had a couple of mistakes as well in the beginning. But then also, powered on and scored a try in the second half. So, there was certainly both of them. I think I would call it a draw. I don't put too much stock into these one-on-one battles in a team game. I think both players are exceptional players. Both players are Springboks. And both, I'm just happy that they fit in playing as well. So that for me is the big thing as well. But let's go through some of the moments of the game, and then we can chat about some of the stats, and then we'll have a look from there. This was a game that was Canan Moody's 50th. This was the place where he made his debut at the age of 19. He's 22, 50 games. Had a rather quiet game, but maybe not all to do with him. Sometimes the ball just doesn't come to you on the wing, and sort of bossed a couple of aerial balls in the first half. And then the second half, it was relatively quiet, mainly on defence. But not his. I won't say he'll be happy with the game. He'll be happy with the win, but not a game where he starred like he probably wanted to. But yeah, that's again not always his fault. Then we have a look at this. This is from the kickoff. This is Cameron Honeycomb bouncing out of the tackles and really setting up the first try. What a run by the youngster, and really he's certainly a huge part of the Bulls game at the moment. You just look how he twists out. He's got this unbelievable ability to get out of tackles, and that just makes him such a good prospect. And I really enjoyed watching him play. He did make some mistakes, but not at all bad performance by him. That, of course, led to the try. Right in the first minute, as you can see, the Bulls went on to score. Cobus Wiese. Hopefully his ankle injury is not too serious. He left the field later on. There's another one of the Bulls' tries there, going over from close range. It was certainly a game that swung from left to right the whole time, and the Bulls scored there from close. Looking at some of the Stormers' tries here, this was the one where what a great back pass there from Ruben van Heerden. It was the Stormers' first try for Frans Malherbe. He'll claim that one. You'll hear about that one for weeks to come. The Buffalo. Now, this was a try that came in the second half while Gerard Steenekamp was off, and Warwick Gelant again. The Stormers showing just how good they are at broken field and just knocking the Bulls back. 2 tries in 5 minutes. That was one of them. They put the Stormers into the lead, and this was the try that got them back into contention, where they should have, Clayton Blommetjies should have kicked the ball over and to score the try. And this was Ben Jason Dixon going over, put them 1 point behind from there. Clayton Blommetjies obviously missed the kick that he shouldn't have missed, and that ended the game. Well, the Bulls had to hold out a little bit longer, but eventually the knock-on came and the end of the game. So relief all around for the Bulls, I think, there as well. Let's have a look at some of the stats. I think some of the stats are quite telling. I must admit, just before I get to the stats, I had the feeling over there that the Bulls were doing most of the play, especially in that first half. Should have been ahead a lot better in the first half. In the second half, I thought the Stormers came back into it a lot, but I still thought the stats would favour the Bulls. I was quite surprised when I looked at them as well. Just looking at the match summary there, 5 tries to the Stormers, 4 to the Bulls. Great game all around. I think 132 carries for the Stormers, 72 for the Bulls. I would have thought that wasn't that wide a difference. It didn't feel that way. Line breaks, I would have thought the Stormers did make more line breaks than the Bulls. Turnovers, I think both teams made a lot of turnovers there as well. Turnovers 1 was an interesting one, 6 by the Bulls, and they had some telling ones, especially by Akker van der Merwe, telling cameo by him in terms of coming onto the field and winning some really good turnover penalties. But huge difference there in that stat. Then looking at the territory, that was an interesting one. I wouldn't have said almost 60% of the game was played in the Bulls' territory. I think the Bulls probably in times were camped in their own half, but I didn't feel it was that much. But I suppose the stats don't lie. A lot of the game was played in the Bulls' half, so quite interesting. Certainly didn't feel that way watching the game live. That also gets played out in possession. The last 10 minutes, the Stormers were definitely on the attack. They were trying to win the game, so that's very understandable. And a lot of times you can see that as well in games. But 55% to 45, I didn't think it was that wide either. I would have called it probably a lot more even at the end of the game. But it's certainly the Stormers did have enough ball to win that game. And I think if they look back at it, they'll really be kicking themselves for the opportunities that they really missed. Onto the attack stats, that's also very interesting. Stormers doing a lot more with attacking than the Bulls. In the first half, I actually thought the Bulls played too much. They could have kept it rather tighter. They tended to become very ambitious at times and maybe a bit impatient. But the second half, the Stormers really used the ball. They got them a lot of times from Bulls' mistakes or Bulls' penalties that they gave away, and the Stormers really did that well. 144 passes to 88. They had a lot more ball according to that. Much more, almost double the ball carries, and post-contact meters not that different though. That's a very interesting one because you don't normally see that when somebody has more carries than the other team. The post-contact meters is usually much higher. It shows you the Bulls' defense probably held out pretty well. We'll look at the defense stats next. Defensively, the Bulls did make a lot of tackles. That comes also from the amount of carries that the Stormers had. You could see that as well. Tackles missed pretty much the same. I didn't think there was that much. The Bulls' completion percentage is a bit better. But yeah, obviously the Bulls' defense in the later stages really held well, especially when they were getting a lot of penalties against them. But it seems rather strange when you look at that game. I didn't feel it was that stark a difference, but I suppose if I go watch the game again, sometimes you get caught up in the action and the drama, and you don't notice these things as well. But it's quite an interesting stat, that. The penalty stats, not surprised that the Bulls got more penalties against them. Or their penalties certainly felt more costly in terms of when they got them against them. At times they looked as if they had control of the game, and then suddenly conceded a string of penalties. And the Stormers, when they get that chance, are really good. The 2 yellow cards, the second one in the Zamka, I felt a bit sorry for them. That was a bit unfortunate. But Gerhard Steenekamps one, very justified. He did play Stefan Ungara when it took a 5-meter tap, and it was the second time in the game that the Bulls did that. So no qualms there. It was a very costly yellow card. 2 tries scored by the Stormers in that period. But I think the Bulls won't worry too much about that. There's a lot for them to chew on after this game, and a lot of these penalties will be discussed in the week. Just a quick one on turnovers as well. Interesting, the 6-1 there. Turnovers lost pretty much the same. But yeah, quite a stark difference in the number of turnovers won by the Bulls in the game. Following on from that, it's quite interesting. They don't always tell the story, but Aka van der Merwe's 2 turnovers were vital. One of them in his own 22 when the Stormers were on attack, and Willie Leroux's one, also in the 22, which was highly contested by the Stormers, was also an interesting one. And those 3 turnovers definitely were big differences in the game. Quick one to tackles completed. JF van der Heelen putting in a huge shift there. Harold Forster and Johan Grobler. Very good numbers from all 3 of them. Those are the top 3 tacklers in the game. And that goes with also the stats that show that the Bulls made a lot more tackles. Not a Stormer in sight there in the top 3. Carries, well, if you want to look at where the carries were, one man in particular stands out, Warwick Gelant. And obviously, a number of his carries didn't go anywhere. He went sideways on the field as well. So I suppose that's why the post-contact meters isn't that high. Evan Reus had a huge game there as well with carries. And Wandisile Simelane also played his part as well against his former team. Finally, just the line breaks. Warwick Gelant, Wandisile Simelane, Dan du Plessis. Not a Bulls player in sight there. Interesting that. Cameron Honeycomb definitely got one. But yeah, the Stormers definitely made more line breaks. And Warwick Gelant blows hot and cold at times, but certainly gets his name on the stats sheet every single time he plays. The boogeyman. So guys, that's a quick hot take from the Bulls game. Of course, this is straight after the game, so maybe I missed something, maybe you don't. I'm sure it'll come out in the wash. There'll be stuff coming up with the press conferences. I'm going to be trying getting those videos as well to put them up as well. And as I say, often you get so caught up in the game that you don't see everything, and the stats don't always tell you the full picture. But to me, I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a hell of a dramatic, drama-filled to and fro game, lots of mistakes, but I sort of expect those from derbies as well. I really enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. Let me know what you think in the comments, but let me know where you think, other than the kicks, the game was won or lost, and what teams can do better next week. Of course, the Bulls move on for a huge home derby against the Sharks, and the Stormers face the Lions. So tough games next week for the Bulls as well, and Stormers.